to Full Scope, a podcast designed to analyze the games that we love, the headlines of music, and the movies we can't forget. I'm your host, Wellington Burns, and we're back with another episode. I got a lot of topics to get into for this one. Obviously, NBA, we're getting into the final stretch of the season. Obviously, the playoffs are coming around right around the corner in April. And we've got NFL free agency, MVP discussion with Shea, Gilgeous-Alexander, and Jokic, Stephen A. and LeBron going at it head to head, confrontation time, a lot heating up. But you start off with OKC and Boston. Obviously, OKC, they win last night, 118, 112 on the road in Boston Garden. And it's interesting because Shea, obviously, he's been the leading guy of the MVP discussion. He's got 34 points. Chet Holmgren had 23, 15 rebounds. They're also able to clinch their playoff berth. And so much is conceded in terms of what's going to happen with OKC being the one seed. Will they have enough? Are they better than Denver? Are they better than the Lakers in a seven-game series? And I personally think that this OKC team is very much so. I don't want to say Atlanta Hawkish, but because I see them being a lot better, more talented than the Hawks in terms of their young talent. Don't get me wrong, like Kyle Korver, Joe Johnson, Al Horford, Jeff Teague, they had some really good players. But I think in the postseason it just showed there was a talent deficiency compared to the likes of the Cleveland and Boston's that they lost to in the playoffs. But I personally think this Thunder team is very skilled, a very good mid-range team. But I think the fact that they're not as good perimeter wise and they struggle to knock down perimeter shots is really gonna bite them in the postseason because that's where a lot of the bread and butter production wise comes from in these playoffs is that you see these guys hit down perimeter shots. You see Jokic, who I think who was my personal MVP of this year. I see him being that type of guy who's gonna knock down perimeter shots. And it concerns me that this team is kind of lacking in that. Tatum, he had 33 for Boston. They've won five straight, 15 of their last 18 games. Al Horford had 18 points, 10 rebounds. Um, and OKC got off to a hot start. They really got off to a hot start, and Shea just kind of took over the final stretch of the game. And that's what Shea does. That's what you kind of expect from Shea. So it's nothing out of the ordinary that Shea can take over games, but can he take over an entire series against the likes of a Denver or a Lakers because we saw what happened against Luka in that series last year. Luka outplayed him, and you're probably gonna see Luka again at some point, maybe the second round or Western Conference Finals, how things shake out. What's gonna happen then? What are the likes of what could possibly take place? And that's where I think OKC is impressive, super impressive. But I just don't know if they're that team that's gonna like actually jump the likes of a Denver or Lakers to get to the finals. Another game we had was Timberwolves Nuggets. Obviously, this has been a different type of season for Minnesota, seven seed. They're able to beat Denver by 20. Anthony Edwards scores 29 points. Julius Randle added 25. This was just a blowout on the road. And you know, the Timberwolves defense was just so locked in and so stellar. They're able to limit Denver to just 20 assists, 18 fast break points. And it's such a drastic change for Denver because they scored 140 points on Monday night's win against Oklahoma City, and then you look at the Nuggets you look at what Denver did last night. They don't find their shooting touch. They only shot 40% of the game and never led, and that's just something that's uncharacteristic of Denver. Sometimes they can be inconsistent, and I personally think that Denver is a sleeping dragon at times. They're the type of team that I would say can has all the potential in the world to get to the finals again. I don't want to make my final prediction, but they are a team I really like to go far in this postseason in the West. The series I've always wanted to see in the finals is Denver Boston. I think that'll be a fascinating chess piece type of move because you have two great coaches in Mike Malone, Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla is probably going to watch The Town 14 times if he makes it to the finals again. He's going to have that movie on loop. Have that movie on loop. Yeah. Every time I think of The Town, I go back to the scene with Jeremy Renner and Ben Affleck. Like, you think you're better than me? You think you're better than me? Like, what, which car are we taking? Which car are we taking, huh? you think you're better than me? Like, I gotta do another re-review of The Town with Trenton or Maurice or somebody. The movie's so good. Ben Affleck, just 4 stars, Chef's kiss, so good. But back to Denver, yeah, I think Denver is just they're kind of a sleeping dragon. We see that they're, I believe, third in the West. And I just wonder if I wonder how a first round with Golden State would go because Golden State's getting really healthy. They got Kuminga back. You all obviously see what's going on with them winning 12 of their last 14 games, and Jimmy Butler is just like seamlessly fitting in, like just seamlessly. It's I thought it would take a lot longer for him to fit in, but it's kind of happening at a quicker rate than I think, and they're not even shooting that well. When they start shooting well, and playoff Jimmy can be playoff Jimmy, and Steph can be like, "Oh, I don't have to do that much. I got that new sidekick that gives me a different boost of energy." I think that could be really scary. That could be a really scary first matchup for Denver. I would pick Denver, but I think it could be a one that makes Denver sweat a lot more than they would like to. Possibly 7 games, possibly seven. It honestly could be one of those bloodbath type series where Denver's exhausted going to the second round, and a team might catch them lacking, and that's where, in LA or OKC might be on the prowl, be like, okay, you guys aren't the same. You guys aren't feeling the same. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes for them because that is an issue um, that could really pop up. It could really pop up for them, and they have to be wary of it. I can't move on without talking about the Stephen A. LeBron confrontation. Obviously, it's breaking news, whirlwind everywhere. If you haven't seen the video, obviously, LeBron, middle of the timeout, middle of the third quarter, I think against the Knicks last Thursday, which was a phenomenal game, by the way. Absolutely phenomenal, absolute cinema. It felt like a playoff game. Just hearing the buzz of the city again, feeling like, oh my goodness, like this is a really good team. This is a really good team. We got 2 stars in Luka and LeBron. This is a really good team, and we have a feeling that we can go very far. We got a new coach in JJ Redick who's doing a phenomenal job, X's and O's. Um, just very, very cerebral, very witty. Knows how to play the media game, as I always say. And the interesting thing about that is, middle of the third quarter timeout, LeBron sees Stephen A. talking to Larry David, just chopping it up with some stars, actors, and LeBron's like, no, nah. I gotta talk to you about what you said back in January when Stephen A. got into his General Hospital bed, got dramatic and says, I'm pleading with you as a father. Stop exposing your son. Stop doing it, LeBron. I'm a father too. Stop doing it. You're better than that, LeBron. You don't do that. LeBron's like, okay, I got enough. I tell Rich Paul, I tell Matt Ricardo, I tell my guys, I tell my business partners and executives, hey, from uninterrupted, hey, before I interrupt him, and before I go on an uninterrupted type of confrontation and rant, please do not let that guy say one more thing about my son. Now, again, do I think LeBron has to watch how much he covers up for his son because his son is an adult, his son is a professional now? Yeah, absolutely. He's in the big boy league. You have to let Bronny grow up. You cannot baby him and not just cover up for him, which I'm not saying LeBron trying to do that at all, but I am saying that there is something about this that probably makes Bronny feel uncomfortable. Probably does. The fact that people are saying, "Oh man, your dad's sticking up for you," like, "What? You're a grown man. Like, you're just gonna have your dad stick up for you the rest of your life." Like, come on, Bronny, you're a grown man now. Can't have dad do that. I know what that feels like. I know what Bronny's probably feeling right now. He's probably like, "Man, I just want to show that I'm my own man." Like, that's a tough thing. So I have all the sympathy in the world for Bronny, and the fact that obviously he has a great life, but also there's something that a feeling of just feeling like you're gonna get picked on because your dad is LeBron and you can't really stand up for yourself. That's a tough feeling as a young man, and I think that's an undernoted fact about this is the fact that it's tough to feel like your dad is just covering up for you all the time, and the guys in the locker room are just gonna make fun of you. Like that's probably brutal, really brutal. But that's neither here nor there. I think it's a side note, something that people aren't talking about a lot. But also just the fact that he gets into Stephen A's face, says, that's my son, leave him out of this, da da da. I can't, obviously a lot of expletives going back and forth. And Stephen A is like, he just looks stunned, like, oh my gosh, like, and it's an imposing. image because LeBron is so big, 6'8", 6'9", and Stephen A is so much smaller than him that it really does look like an intimidating type of confrontation. Because we see like the gravity, the physical nature of LeBron when he does confront you and he does get mad, especially a media member who's Stephen A who does not play basketball. And so obviously Stephen A was caught off guard. He's been went on Gil's Arena, thought it was weak. Thought he said, okay, he said on first take, I was talking to a father, not a basketball player, which, it was different. Obviously LeBron was has I overheard him in a soundbite talking to Richard Jefferson on Saturday night against the Celtics pregame. They were like, chopping it up, laughing, and saying, "Hey, man, like, I don't even care about anything else. I just care about don't say the pleading with me as a father. I'm pleading with you as a father." Like, and that's the part I think that was out of bounds. I'm not taking either side because I think both sides have some faults in this. I think LeBron has to realize it is nepotism what happened. You got Bronny. You handpick your son to play on the team that you're playing with. He's in the G League. He's not ready. He was never ready this year. Bryce is more ready than him. He's more built than Bronny. Bronny obviously he went through a health scare. Bronny could have been gone. So we understand that, but there also is the point of like, hey, you cannot just cover up everything he does. Like that's suffocating for a son, and that's stunning Bronny's growth as a young man. And so I also think with Stephen A has to realize that some of these guys will check you. They will check you. They will come up to you. Would Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant have handled that differently? I believe it. I absolutely believe they probably would have, had a conversation and just more so in a suit and tie and just been like, hey man, like let's talk about this. Like why are you saying this? I totally believe that would have happened. But LeBron is not them. And he also has to know that he's a role model. He's an image that is very high profile, and there's certain things you can't do, and that's not a good look. So I would say that I think both will regret the things that they did. I think LeBron will forever regret confronting Stephen A that way, that aggressively, and Stephen A will regret that clip back in January when he said, "I'm pleading with you as a father. Stop exposing your son." I think there will be regrets on both sides, and both of them have to learn that have hold extreme responsibility for their respective careers. LeBron is one of the two greatest players ever, generational talent, chosen one. Stephen A is a titan. He's somebody I look up to as an aspiring sports media member who wants to do what he does one day full time. That's somebody you look up to. And so I think that is something he has to fully take the onus for. Um, and so yeah, it's everybody has a different side of it. Everybody has a different side of it. For listeners out there, if you have a different side, hit me up on Instagram, Wellington Burns on TikTok, where I do my Wellington's Wise Zone videos. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Wellington Burns, same place, same area. Wellington's Wise Zone, the new podcast is coming up. It's loading. It's approaching very soon. I know I keep saying that, but it's gonna come. It's gonna come out of nowhere when you're least expecting it, and it's I can't wait to start that new era and just fully dive into this Wellington's Wise Zone. Era for the rest of the time. It's going to be a very fun, a lot of fun. I also want to say about when it comes to just the feeling of the media being misunderstood. The media can be misunderstood. We all know that. The media can be misunderstood, but there also is a responsibility to use your words wisely. And that's the one thing I would say Stephen A has to use his words wisely. He got a new deal. I believe it's to do so much in terms of like uh politics, sports, just extra things that he's going to talk about. That is phenomenal. But we can't forget the fact that look, you still have a responsibility to use your words wisely. LeBron, on the other hand, I mean, you're a role model. No other way to put it. You're a role model for a lot of kids. The um the I promise, all that for the schools in Akron. It's amazing, but you also have to know that those kids are watch what you did. They're going to be watching it. So um, I would say this is a moment that's something we look back a lot for both of them. Um, and now getting into the NBA landscape and just where we're at with things. We saw the Pacers beat the Bucks. Tyrese Halliburton, he had a 4-point play. He was just he's so dynamic offensively and such a great scorer and has those like outburst plays which is like whoa, like it just takes over a game. Completely takes over a game. And what he did against Milwaukee is like Yeah, he could do that against them in the playoffs again. Like Tyrese Halliburton is like an absolute nightmare for that team. Absolute nightmare. So I personally think that the Bucks have a lot to work on. They have a lot of things that they can fix and tweak, but I don't think that they're a team that's going to have a deep run. I think they're going to be a short, like a quick exit type of team. A very much so first or second round exit again, because I do not see significant improvements coming from Doc Rivers, and I think that is really, really glaring and eye-opening. Before we get to our break and get to the second half of our NFL topics and free agency, the MVP conversation, I did a video on it earlier this week, Wellington's Wise Own video. It's Shea, it's Nikola Jokic, it's heated up, it's getting down to that point where we're just like, look, who's the guy? Obviously, Shea's the heavy favorite, and some people I heard somebody say that they shared something on social media about Shea being possibly a unanimous MVP since Steph Curry. First of all, I want to say that that should not happen at all. It shouldn't happen. There's no person who's had a season that great since of that level of perfectionism 50 40 90 season, and Steph was just like reshaping the type of game that we played, the type of shots that point guards took. That was just different. That was completely different. Shea is phenomenal. He's a great scorer. He's going to average probably like, 32, 33 points. He's going to get his buckets. He's going to control. And I'm not saying that, I know I say that it may seem like I'm saying it dismissively. That's tough to do. Average 32 or 33 points. That is a tough thing to do consistently night in and night out. I'm so more saying that I think Jokic is controlling the game at a higher clip. Um, he 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 can distribute, facilitate, include his teammates so well. He can shoot effortlessly, but he looks like a regular guy. He looks like just so chill, like a regular working class man in society. But he's an absolute baller. He's an absolute stud. Like he's that type of guy that just can absolutely kill whatever's in front of him. So I have to say Nikola Jokic. I know there's voter fatigue. I know in 2011 they gave the MVP to Derrick Rose when they should have given it to LeBron. There's so many things. It's like you shouldn't have done that, but you did because in '98, Karl Malone got the MVP. It should have been Jordan, but nobody wanted to give it to the same guy because they got voter fatigue, and voter fatigue is a big deal. I know Jokic won't get it, but I think he should. I think when we look at valuable, I think he is the most valuable, and it's not just for any time. I think it's just this season he has been the most valuable. He's had a phenomenal offensive season, and I think Denver would be more in trouble without Jokic than OKC would be without Shea. I really think that. So I would go with Nikola Jokic. That would be my pick, my Wellington's wide zone pick for MVP. I know they're going to give it to Shea, but he's had an incredible season, both incredible seasons. But I think Jokic is just this is probably might be his best offensive season of all time. Um, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our NFL free agency topics.